Well, I have enough of people saying that this is someone else's fault. It is our fault. It is our responsibility. And this is so true for COVID-19, as well as for the climate change and the environmental problem caused by the fashion and textile industry. And this is because everything is interconnected today. With our wrong behavior, we have tilted the healthcare system capacity in different countries like Italy, for example. And now we are in lockdown, and guys, believe me that I am in lockdown almost for 2 months, because to flatten the curve, it is necessary to learn how to live with this virus until we find a final solution. We need to buy time, and this is also what the textile and fashion industry needs to do quickly and seriously. Good news, this is possible, and there are multiple evidences that depend on us and from our actions. There are nations, and I will take the example of South Korea, that have managed the situation properly and much better than others, and this for 3 basic reasons: a legislation, a proper education, and also a good organization. And people don't know, or not many of us know, that the day one for South Korea has been January the 19th, when a lady arrived at the airport of Seoul from Wuhan. But she was thermoscanned at the airport, and due to her higher temperature, she was immediately texted. And the result, she was positive to COVID-19. At this point, a system starts with a legislation of pre-existing law for the use of travel information of confirmed patients, pre-existing government units in the ministries of health, welfare, foreign affairs, regional municipalities, and even the president's office to mobilize rapidly. So they didn't have to wait weeks or months. Even basic living expenses measured to cover immediately the first isolation month, because of course, if you don't work, you don't earn your money to buy your food. Education, the experience came from the past, and it came from 2015 MERS and 2003 SARS pandemic problem. Transparency and accurate information on the virus, trust for scientists, doctors, and experts, higher social public trust, civic awareness created cooperation, not people fighting like crazy because of different political parties. Organization, rapid production of detection kits by South Korean biotech industry. This is very much important. Testing also asymptomatics, contact tracing, tracking system, and organized healthcare. So everything was already prepared, waiting for the problem and in order to minimize the results. And you can see the difference, because in Korea, of course, everything was much less problematic than we are suffering in the rest of the world. But don't panic. It actually depends on us. It depends on us for COVID-19 as for sustainable fashion. We can be the solution with our actions. We just need to decide if we want to be the guest stars or just complaining, doing nothing. And rather than simply reacting to disasters such as the virus or as the environmental disaster, we should design economies, societies, and products to avoid the devastation of our planet and to avoid the climate change. So please, let's copy South Korea and learn from our mistakes. In reality, today, we have an incredible opportunity because we have to restart the system and we can design it for a better future. And Econyl is part of this new world. But when I started this incredible journey, I found lots of bumps. You can imagine myself trying to explain in 2008 to bankers and to financial community that I wanted to stop using oil. And instead of using oil, I wanted to start recycling waste and to make beautiful products. You can imagine when I say to them that when I see a landfill, I see a gold mine. They were jumping out of their chairs, leaving my room saying, I will never borrow you a penny. Well, luckily the system worked, and it is very, very much necessary because our incredibly beautiful industry today is already one of the most polluting one. And if we do nothing, it will become, before year 2050, the most polluting one, counting for 26% of the global CO2 emissions. This, of course, cannot last. It cannot be like that. Today, one garbage truck of clothes is sent to landfill every second. And this is enough to fill the Empire State Building every day. And today, we have another problem. Face masks. So we need them to protect ourselves and, of course, to protect our people. They are mandatory. And not all of you are so lucky to have one of these made with Econyl shell that we can clean, reuse, and recycle a multiple number of times. We are almost 7.5 billion people in our planet Earth. So theoretically, we need billions of masks every day. And what kind of waste are they? Are they a simple one or a biological waste? So with Econyl, we can contribute to change the world, as we discussed for COVID-19. Also for the fashion industry, we need 3 basic things. And gosh, they sound very much the same ones of the one of COVID-19 for South Korea. Legislation, education, and eco-design. Well, yes, maybe they are the same. But what is Econyl? Econyl is a beautiful yarn, but a very different story. Because instead of coming from waste, instead of coming from oil, it comes 100% from waste. And very nasty ones, such as fishing nets, carpet waste, plastic scraps, and other waste coming from the textile and the plastic industry. But the result is beautiful product. So no waste out. It's just, products such as swimming wear, rain jackets, raincoats, or even sunglass frames, backpacks from Prada, Burberry raincoats, and several other products coming from the real estate industry, like carpets, rugs, tables, sofas, or chairs. Nylon is an incredible material, really, that can deliver a multiple number of solutions. It's endless, doesn't need or doesn't give any limitation to designers. And it's a different way of recycling, because instead of being recycled once or twice, typical example, if bottle to fiber and fiber to grave, in this case, if you give me back your product at the end of use, like you give me back your carpet, I can give you the fiber and the fabric for your next swimwear. And at the end of use, if you give me back your swimwear, I can give you a pair of beautiful sunglasses. And this, time and time again, infinitely. It's really different. So I can say that it's really circular economy in action. It's not recycling economy, but we go from linear economy, so take, make, waste, disposing, to circular one. So we take raw material from the planet only once, and then we can use them forever without depleting our natural resources. And this is the reason why a lot of fashion brands, very important ones, such as Gucci, Stella McCartney, Prada, Burberry, Breitling, I can mention really thousands of companies, are using Econyl as their ingredient when they really need nylon. And with Econyl, we can change the world. But in order to do this, we need, just like in the case of COVID-19, three basic factors: legislation, education, and eco-design. And if I want to make an example for legislation, I'd like to mention the carpet waste problem as a textile example of extended producer responsibility. In California, they approved a special legislation with the aim of recycling carpets, because carpets are a huge problem in the country. About 4 billion pounds of carpets are discarded in US each year. And a similar amount is discarded in Europe as well as in Asia Pacific region. So they created a legislation based on assessment paid by consumer, with the aim of creating the money in a circular way to improve the supply chain for carpet recovery and recycling, in order to allow a totally new industry around recycling of carpets, with the amazing results of changing the recycling rate of this particular state from the 5% of national average to 24%. And of course, creating also new jobs, because you have to have people collecting the carpets, people dismantling the carpets, and then recycling all the secondary raw material. We at Aquafil, we have set up 2 carpet recycling facilities. One which is located in Phoenix, Arizona, and the second one which is under commissioning in Woodland, Sacramento. And each of them can process around 36 million pounds of carpet each year. And this is, of course, a remarkable amount. Think that they correspond to about 27 Airbus A380. So the weight of 27 of the giant of the sky each year, each plant. I mean, and if you make all the carpets with nylon, we can recycle 100% of them, not only 25. So this is really incredible. And when I go to education and eco-design, I would like to mention my favorite example, which is the Infinity jacket made by Napapiri, which is a brand of WF Group. And let me share with you a video, hoping that is going to work. And what's the magic of this project. There is a combination of new process and new product, because the product has been redesigned with the idea of using one single material. So there is one mono material, which is nylon 6, and this is used for the shell fabric, for the lining, for the fillers, for the zippers, for the fasteners, for the ropes. So 100% of this jacket, which is the iconic jacket of Napapiri, is made with nylon 6. And this, of course, will make its recycling very easy. Then when it is sold, there is a special QR code, so you can apply and register. And after at least 2 years of use, because they don't want to encourage fast fashion, you can take it back to the shop. So the idea is what? To take it back, to collect, and of course to send it back to us in order to be regenerated by our Econyl system, and at this point to deliver a new yarn for a new fabric for the next generation of jackets or for the next generation of product. So there is a bit of education and a bit of eco-design. Without redesigning things, it is very difficult to really turn the system from linear to circular. And let me conclude with this. Again, it depends only on us. We just need to begin with the end in mind. And when we make a product like fashion, which for me is like art, at this point, we don't make trash and we imitate nature. And everything at the end is becoming a nutrient for the next circle of life in a perfect equilibrium. Thank you. Shall I answer to these questions?
Yes.
Okay, so I read the question and then I answer, or everybody can read the questions?
You would have to read the question and then ask.
Okay, question. Hi, Giulio. A lot of smaller companies struggle to meet the minimum order quantities for yarn, such as Econyl and other sustainable yarns. What would you recommend as a strategy for overcoming this as smaller business? Well, actually, in our case, it can be different because being Econyl exactly identical of the nylon yarns coming from oil, but it just comes from waste, we have no, for our standard products, minimum quantities. Yes, of course, if you are looking for something very special, we are normally asking for a minimum quantities of production, because of course, you know, small runs are not so easy during fiber extrusion. But if you buy standard products, even specialty ones, but I mean something that can be microfibers or whatever, normally we are able to follow your request. The second question, how can you make sure that products come back to you at the end of the life cycle? I can imagine that some companies mix the Econyl with other materials. This impacts the circularity, right? How do you deal with that? Well, we are at the beginning of the circular economy systems, and the one of Napapiri is the very first example. Presently, we are recycling a lot of fabric scraps pre-consumer. So we have a lot of agreements with garment makers and fashion companies to collect the fabric trims and to take them back. Consider that fabric trims and fabric waste during manufacturing are by far non-recycled. Only 3% of these streams are currently recycled. In the case of the agreements with our customers, we can collect them, take them back. You can imagine that we're collecting waste from China and taking back in Europe, and we can recycle them. Basically, for us, the problem is to collect nylon, you know. So if you mix it with other nylon fabrics or nylon waste, for us, this is not a problem. If, of course, you are giving back other kind of fiber waste, this is a problem for us. The third question is coming from Dana Davis. Can you take back Econyl that has been blended with spandex of high content, which is used for swimsuits? We are looking for a take back to make this material circular. Hi, Dana. Thank you for the question. Our first take back system has been organized between Aquafil, us, and Speedo. And Speedo, of course, is making swimwear, as well as we work a lot with warp knitting companies making fabric for the swimming industry. And yes, we can take back even fabric with the 20 or 25% of spandex inside, and we can recycle the nylon, which is part of the fabric. We cannot yet recycle the spandex, but at least the nylon, which is 75 to 80%, is recyclable, and this is not giving us any problem. So normally, when you find the agreement with us and you use Econyl, you can also find the agreement and to send back the final swimwear or the scraps or the waste of a swimwear production. Another question from Pradeep. Hi, Giulio. What is the impact of Econyl in regards to microfibers? That's a very good question. Because, of course, the problem is not only to make a beautiful yarn starting from waste, but also to make it using a renewable energy, to make it without polluting the environment, and of course, to make a fabric that doesn't release microfibers. According to all our tests, our nylon continuous filament are not releasing microfibers. But in order to make sure that it is not just Giulio saying this, we have made a very important research and development exercise with the biggest National Research Institute, and we have established a methodology to measure microfilaments in the air and in the water, and also to recognize where they are coming from. And we are now pushing in order to make this system the one which is accepted by the legislation and by the European community, because presently people don't know, but there isn't a system that can measure microfibers. Yes, everybody knows that microfibers exist, but nobody has a system which has been standardized. So we hope that our work will deliver a system that will make, how can I say, clear where the microfibers are coming from. And this is very important. Paul is asking, how do you guarantee traceability? If you, I don't know where you are living, but should you live in Europe exists the European community, and the European community is forcing the recycling industry to very strict, how can I say, registration and paperwork. So the bureaucracy involved with recycling is unbelievable. I always like to mention this. When you create aquaculture cages, very often you have material that are considered as hazardous at the end of its use. So you can use them to grow fishes that you are going to eat, but at the end of the life of the nets, you cannot transport those nets, just to make an example. So if you want to be a recycling company and you don't want to be jailed in Europe, you have to give a very strict registration of every single stream of waste that you are importing in your company. And at this point, you know, and you can demonstrate what you are doing. Maria Dionisio, Are you in Brazil already? Well, I wish I was right now. Instead of being in lockdown in Italy, I believe that a lot of us would love to be in Brazil, even if also in Brazil COVID-19 is spreading. But we have, let's say, possibility to deliver products and fabrics in Brazil, and we have some Brazilian customers. Also, for example, we have customers making beautiful rugs and incredibly beautiful swimwears. Oh, from Maria Dionisium. Hi, Giulio. Since plastic needs to be heated when recycling, isn't environmental issues regarding this process an issue? Also, don't you believe that we need to begin to revert back to natural fibers in order to save our environment? I start from the second part of your question. I don't believe that today exists a fiber that can substitute all. Sometimes cotton is better, sometimes wool is the fiber to be preferred, but sometimes synthetic fibers are demanded because of its performances. And also, please remember that also natural fibers have an impact. For example, in terms of CO2 emissions, cotton and wool are for sure impacting as or even more than synthetic fibers. And in case of our Econyl, we have 80% less CO2 emissions than standard nylon. So you can imagine the difference. The problem is related with synthetic fibers and synthetic material is recycling of the end of use and microfilaments not to be dispersed in the environment and in the sea. But I believe that every application drives the choice of the best fiber for its purposes. When we recycle our material, we almost 100% use only renewable energy all over the world. So even our factories in China, Thailand, and United States, so not only the European ones, are using renewable energy. And we try, of course, to have the highest efficiency in terms of energy consumption. And this is very much necessary if you want to reduce your carbon footprint. Another question from Marcelo. What sustainable fashion means to you? That's, we need maybe 2 or 3 days to answer this question. Sustainable fashion is the one that starts with the end in mind. When a designer really studies what kind of products he or she wants to develop, and then, of course, in collaboration with his or her suppliers, picks the right ingredients and try to design something which at the end may return back and become secondary raw material. So this is what sustainable fashion means to me. Then it is not only a problem of fiber. So don't believe that natural or synthetic are the only problem involved. For example, dye stuff and let's say coatings and finishing are as impactful, if not even more, than the fiber themselves. So it is very important in the future to understand whether the dye stuff industry is able to find solutions that are not impacting the environment as strongly as they are doing now.
Thank you so much. That was incredible. Honestly, so much knowledge, so much inspiration, and I love your positive attitude, which is so needed right now for people to just be able to have hope. And we value your time so much. So that was incredible. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordana.
Bye.
Bye-bye.